We were first introduced to buying food in bulk by a couple in their mid-80s. We stayed with this couple for 2 weeks while we were transitioning into our first country rental. It was so interesting seeing how this couple bought dry food in 25-pound bags, stored it in buckets, while transferring some to their kitchen for easy access for their daily use, and then watching how she cooked. She made an effort to teach me how to do the same, and though you may not have an opportunity to visit someone's home who lives this way, we want to open up our home to you now so you can see how it's done. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to store your bulk food, both in buckets for a more long-term storage and in your kitchen for convenient everyday use. We'll be covering buckets and lids, and we'll also be covering what some of our favorite bulk food items are. And you'll want to make sure that you stick around until the end, because we're going to be sharing items that are important to store in bulk that you may not have already thought of. I am going to be including timestamps in the description, so be aware of that in case you're looking for something in particular.
We're Michael and Dana with Living Quite Simply, talking about our system for bulk food storage. Let's get right into it.
So these are the buckets we use, and actually most of the buckets that we have, we've just picked up at Walmart, and it's about $3 for the buckets that we're getting. Walmart, we do find is a really good place to find them, except it's kind of hit or miss finding them in the store. However, you can buy them online through Walmart, and I've had a lot more success that way. And I'm going to be sharing in the description box a link for buckets and for various other things. So when you're looking for buckets, you want to make sure that you do get a bucket that's marked as food grade. When it's marked as food grade, you know that it's safe to put food into.
There's three main types of lids that we have, and you'll probably find these across the board when you're looking for food grade buckets. And the first one is, if you look right over here, we have one that isn't even opened yet, and it comes with a little pull tab. You pull it off, and then you're ready to open it. But it's segmented, and you actually have to pry each section off, and it comes off. Very hard to get off oftentimes, and sometimes you'll even need a tool if you don't have the grip strength to get that off. Here's one that's actually open. It's from a honey that we're currently using, and there's the sections that you just pry off, one section at a time, and it's not that hard, but it comes right off. Honey smells good. And if you do have these lids that are challenging to get off, we'll put a link in the description below for the tool that we use to make it a little bit easier for you. The next one is the gamma lids, and these are our favorite. They are a little more expensive, but basically they just screw right off. They're sealed. They have the little gasket there, and these are our lentils. Easily accessible, airtight, and you don't have to worry about finagling with these to get them off. Very simple. And then the last one are the ones that you can find with these buckets at Walmart. They're really flexible lids. They're lightweight, easy to get on and off. You can see how they are flexible. The disadvantage of these is that they don't allow you to stack them firmly. So if you have heavy buckets and you're going like 4 high, you're going to see a lean, and that's because the lids actually tend to sag in. And I'm trying to, you can see how these are kind of moving. That's because all of these are stacked on these flimsy lids. We don't do this long term. This is strictly for the video that we're filming to show you guys now. Whereas you can see these are the gamma lids, and they don't budge. They're nice and firm.
The next thing you might want to consider getting are oxygen absorbers. Oxygen absorbers are essentially just what they sound like. You put them in the bucket and they absorb any oxygen that's in there. If you're worried about pests like insects or something getting into your buckets, this will put your mind at ease. Insects are not able to live in a place where there's no oxygen. So if I had to access these buckets each time I was cooking, it wouldn't be very convenient at all. So I'm gonna take you into the kitchen now and show you how we're storing the food that we have in our kitchen. So let's head in there right now. We have 3 of these bulk bins, and these store our oatmeal, our whole wheat flour, and our sugar. These store a 25 bag of flour and sugar quite easily. They don't quite store 25 pounds of oats, but it is still quite a bit. I do find it very convenient to have very large storage for these basic staples in the kitchen. Next, we have these gallon and half-gallon mason jars. I love storing things in these jars in the kitchen. The frequency and the amount that we use of a particular item is going to determine whether we're putting it in a gallon or a half-gallon mason jar. But as a general rule, I'm putting grains and beans in our gallon jars and miscellaneous other things in our half-gallon jars. Here we have dried elderberries and coconut in our half-gallon jars, and in this gallon jar we have some chickpeas. We use quart-sized mason jars for most of our herbs and seasonings. If you watched our series on unconventional ways we save money, you know we like to buy our herbs and spices by the pound as a way to save money. When we buy something that's already in a plastic container like this cumin on the left, then we'll just keep it in that container rather than transferring it to one of the mason jars. So now I just briefly want to touch on some of the items that are important to us to have on hand. Grains, things like wheat berries, flour, rice, rolled oats, quinoa, millet, popcorn, cornmeal. Beans, things like lentils, pintos, black beans, and garbanzo beans. Nuts, almonds, peanuts, cashews. We like to have flaxseed and sesame seed, and those are things that you can buy in 25-pound bags, and they last a very long time. Also sweeteners like cane sugar and honey, and seasonings. We do buy our salt even, I think, in a 45-pound bag, but it will last us literally for years. Also miscellaneous items like coconut and pasta. Those are great to have on hand in your food buckets. And finally, let's talk about some things you want to make sure that you have in bulk that you may not have already thought of. Oil. Cooking oil is something that I love to buy in bulk. This canola oil I bought from Azure Standard. It's organic, and I bought it, I believe it's in a 4-gallon bucket. Though oil isn't something that I'm using in a mass quantity, when I buy it in bulk, I'm saving a lot of money, and I always know I have it on hand. Same with our salt and our sweeteners. The next thing you want to make sure that you buy and store in bulk is anything that your animals are going to need. Their feed, their first aid supplies, anything that they need to keep them healthy. Baking soda is something that we make sure that we have on hand in case our goats need it for their rumen. And likewise, diatomaceous earth is something that we use for our animals both internally and externally, and it's also something we use in our garden. Which brings us to our next category, which is our gardening supplies. We want to make sure that we have a good amount of seeds on hand at all times, just in case. Likewise, making sure that we have a well-stocked first aid chest, both having natural remedies on hand and having emergency supplies like bandages and these types of things on hand in bulk keeps us prepared. And finally, cleaning supplies. Whenever we're buying useful products in bulk, it's going to save us money and ensure that we have them on hand when we need them. It's always good to be prepared because you never know when a storm will come. Friends, we've really enjoyed our time with you. If you haven't already subscribed yet, why not? Do it now. And until next time, bye!